Hey everyone, David here, and I've got some exciting news to share. I've decided to write a book, and I've entitled it Psychosocial Hazards Are Real. The book is intended to help clarify the fact that psychological safety cannot be achieved without paying attention to the psychosocial hazards people are being exposed to. Despite how much individuals might be interested in treating others with kindness, dignity, and respect, many cultures are so full of psychosocial traps that no psychological health and safety effort can ultimately succeed. But to address psychosocial hazards, you first have to know what they are, and you have to have some idea what to do to address them. Though the book won't be 100% complete until the spring of 2025, I'd like to share a unique opportunity to reserve a copy during the book presale campaign. The campaign will run from September 16th to October 18th, 2024. This will be an opportunity to get one of the first copies of the book, tickets to the book launch event, and other opportunities to learn more about psychosocial hazards. For more information, you can go to my personal LinkedIn or Facebook page, or the LinkedIn, Facebook, or webpage for ID2 Solutions. Don't miss out on this unique opportunity. Now, back to this episode of the podcast. The mind body connection is a well established concept that recognizes the interconnectedness of physical and mental well being. Mental and emotional states can influence physical health and vice versa. We'll discuss this connection and the value of chiropractic care in addressing this connection. Up next on this episode of the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. From Flourish DX, this is the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. As workplace mental health has become a global priority, there's a greater focus on addressing psychosocial hazards. Each week, we look at psychological safety from an occupational health and safety perspective. Let's talk psychological health and safety. Welcome to this week's Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. I'm your host, Dr. I. David Daniels, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Each week, we seek to increase awareness of the importance of psychological health and safety by learning from the lived experiences, research, and expertise of our guests, as well as advocating strategies to reduce harm and minimize vulnerability to psychosocial hazards in the American workplace. Chiropractic care is a form of alternative medicine that focuses on diagnosing and treating mechanical disorders of the musculoskeletal system, particularly the spine. The main goal of chiropractic care is to restore the body's natural ability to heal itself and promote overall wellness. This care can significantly impact mental health by addressing the underlying physical problems that contribute to mental health disorders. Chiropractic adjustments have been shown to positively affect mental health by reducing stress, anxiety, and depression. By correcting misalignments in the spine, chiropractic care can improve nerve function, promoting better mental and emotional well-being. When the spine is properly aligned, nerve signals can flow more freely, allowing the body to function more optimally. Studies have shown that chiropractic adjustments can help regulate the release of stress hormones such as cortisol and increase the production of endorphins, which are a natural mood enhancer. Additionally, chiropractic care has been found to improve sleep quality, which is crucial in maintaining great mental health. So, we're going to learn more about chiropractic care. A little bit more from the, we've all probably heard a bit about, my back's hurting, I'm going to go in and kind of get an alignment, but there actually is a connection between chiropractic care and how you feel, at least in your emotions and in your mentality. So we've got someone today who knows something about that, certainly a lot more than I do. And we're going to get started with the typical way I get folks introduced here, which is an introduction of my guest by my guest with this question. Who is Dr. Amir Rashidian?
Hey, hello everybody, and thank you, David, for having me. I've been looking forward to chatting with you for a while now. So, who am I? Chiropractor. I was born and raised in Iran, and that's been in the news recently quite a bit. But and moved to the United States when I was about 11 years old, and through some experiences with my father and his illnesses and injuries, I was introduced to chiropractic and chose to make that my career, and been practicing for 24 years. We own two offices. We're a team of four chiropractors right now and growing. And we serve quite a few patients, thousands on an annual basis.
Hmm. Wow. Okay, we're going to find out a little bit more about some of the care that you're providing. If eh, how would you answer this question? What does psychological health and safety mean to you? It's something I ask everyone when they come on and just want to get your thoughts.
I look at psychology as one of the three dimensions of life in general. Life is composed of the physical dimension, biochemical dimension, and psychological dimension. And so, obviously, I'm simplifying it. There's more to it. There's spiritual health as well. But just to keep it super simple, I'd say when you have psychological safety, you're less susceptible to illness and injury. Just like if your stress tolerance is at a high level, then it's less likely that stress will result in illness or injury for you.
So tell me, and again, as is often when I have guests on the podcast, they know a lot more about the topic than I do. And part of my questioning is about, just really learning more myself. So what is it that people don't know or mistake about chiropractic care in general?
It's a great question. Most people assume chiropractic is for back pain, and the original textbook on chiropractic never mentioned back pain once. Yeah, it's shocking. You would think it would be all about neck pain and back pain, but that was not the intention of chiropractic when it was discovered and grown to what it is today, which is the second largest field in healthcare. It's also the youngest field in healthcare. It's only been around since 1895. So chiropractic is based on the premise that the human body is self-healing and self-regulating, and what controls all the functions of the body is the brain. So that when I say self-healing, it means within limits. Obviously, if you have a small cut on your hand, it'll heal by itself. Your body knows how to heal that. Blood will clot only in the area of the cut, not anywhere else in your body. So your body has this intelligence to it. If a bone is broken, you may have to immobilize it, but it grows together and heals itself, even if you need to put stitches on that cut or the laceration needs medical attention, it still heals itself. And the broken bone too, it heals itself, even if you need to put rods and screws into that area. And so within limits, the body is self healing. Self regulating means if I need to produce an enzyme to digest my food, it'll produce that. If I need to produce a hormone, it'll produce that. If I need more of something or less of something, it'll do that. My body constantly, consistently regulates my blood pressure. It regulates my cholesterol levels. It regulates my kidney function, my liver function, my stomach and intestinal digestive processes. It's doing all these functions. My body regulates my immune system. So if there's a bacteria or a virus that I'm exposed to, the body knows how to deal with that. So all of that is obviously within limits, but that's what I mean when I say self-regulating and self-healing. And so all the functions of the body are controlled by the brain. And the brain is connected to every organ in your body through nerves. Nerves connect your brain to every cell, every tissue, every blood vessel, every joint, every muscle. Everything has a nerve that goes to it. That's how the brain knows where your body is at all times and what it's doing. And so, as long as there's no interference in that system of nerves, you should have the best health you ever had in your life. We call that normal. But if something interferes with one of those nerves, or part of your nervous system, your body can't do what it was designed and programmed to do, and it'll start to malfunction. And the job of the chiropractor is to find that interference and remove it. Remove the interference to restore the body to its default setting so it can be self healing and self regulating.
When you said the restore the body to its normal setting, it's kind of like the old Control Alt Delete on the computer, basically. How I never. I never really thought of it that way as basically a reboot. And again, to this is fascinating to hear because again, I think I was one of the matter of fact, I'm certain I was one of those folks that thought chiropractic is all about getting your spine. It's all about the back and nothing else. Wow, this opens up a really interesting. So, what is and again, I try to do a little bit of research on this so the guests can tell me more. So, what's chiropractic science?
It, it's the physiologic response of the body to any changes that you put into it. So that change, the typical chiropractic adjustment is an adjustment to the spine. So there's three reasons you'd adjust the spine. One is if there's a misalignment that's interfering with nerve function. Two is if there's a fixation, meaning that the joint's aligned properly, but it's not moving the way it's supposed to. It's locked. And you want to unlock that joint to get it to move properly. And third one would be you adjust to stimulate a certain part of the brain through the nerves. And so you increase communication with that. See, anytime there's a dysfunction, a joint dysfunction in the spine, the first thing that happens is there's a increase in the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. And that alone, anytime there's because the sympathetic response is not just you're all in fight or flight or you're all in rest and repair. There's degrees to it. So a slight increase in the sympathetic response or fight or flight can start the process of lowering your immune system, lowering digestion. And the further you go into fight or flight, the less digestion you have, the weaker immune system you have, and the more susceptible you are to inflammatory processes. And so correcting that restores all of that. So our focus is always to balance the body, or at least some chiropractors' focus is to balance the body between sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic, you being the expert in all this, that it is about the body being able to do its processes when it's not in a state of emergency. That's when you have a meal. Parasympathetic nervous system is what helps you digest your food. You also get a little bit sleepy, and you rest, you repair. Body repairs during the parasympathetic response. Well, in a healthy person, 80% of your life should be in parasympathetic and only 20% in fight or flight or sympathetic. Most people in today's world are about 50-50, and some of us are even higher. If you live on the East Coast, maybe even higher than that. And so the focus is always, let's see why this person is stuck in a sympathetic overdrive and reduce that sympathetic response so that we can improve immune function and circulation, heart issues, digestive issues, and so on.
Hmm. I had recently had another guest on who actually was or is a surgeon, and he had some similar things to say about what happens and how people behave once they are injured or once their body's not working the way it's supposed to. And we didn't talk about it in terms of from a chiropractic kind of perspective. I think there's a similarity. The body is intended to function in a particular way, and when it is not able to, not only is the area that's not functioning going to have some issues, but the rest of the body as well. It's this delicate balance about everything working the way it's supposed to. And that actually kind of leads to the conversation about, so when I talk about psychosocial hazards, psychological health and safety, these kinds of things, there are a lot of folks who almost tune me out immediately because they don't get the physical part. So why? How does that? I can't see that. I don't see how that affects me. And at least my argument. And again, I'm a safety professional. I'm not. My doctorate is not in medicine. So, but I believe that there is a physical connection, and what you're describing starts to connect some of the dots for me as well. Because if your brain can't get the message from whatever part of the body back to the brain to the other parts of the body to react the way it's supposed to, that also could start to affect how people think, feel, and act. So, talk about how chiropractic science and chiropractic care, how does that impact or connect people's emotions and their mental health? Where's the connection there?
Bottom line, you can't have a single thought without having a physiologic response in your body. Every thought has a physiologic manifestation in the body. You could close your eyes right now and visualize biting into a lemon or a lime, and you'll salivate. And the better you visualize it in more detail, the more physiologic response you'll have. Just like if you close your eyes and imagine someone attractive standing in front of you, or you close your eyes and imagine your worst nightmare. A hurricane is passing through and you're visualizing the destruction. Whatever that might be, your body responds to it. A lot of emotions that we experience is a neurochemical pathway that takes place, that it's a cascade, just like anything that we experience that has pleasure behind it, same thing. And so there's this thing called the brain body reward cascade, where it's a thought, it's an emotion, but then it's also a manifestation of response in the body. Now, the way everything works is your brain has a switchboard. In the old days, and I don't know how old you are, or if you're my age, but I remember in the old days we had the operator that we would call,
I do remember
and
that.
he or he had the switchboard, right? You'd say, please connect me to, and she would connect the wires and you could talk to the person you wanted to talk to. Well, that's what your brainstem's doing. And so that thought that happens somewhere in the brain, wherever it might be, that thought goes down to the brainstem. The brainstem relays that signal to the body part that it needs to go to. Now, if there is a misalignment of the atlas, which is the first bone in your neck, it will interfere with that switchboard process. And so we've seen a lot of data that shows, for one, when you take an x-ray of that first bone in the neck from the side, the angle needs to be 14 degrees. Now, up to 28 is not bad, but 14 seems to be the ideal. Below 14, it can affect the brainstem function. And the research shows that it can cause things like ADD, ADHD, sleep apnea, insomnia, depression, anxiety, and mood swings. On top of things like headaches, migraines, dizziness, lightheadedness, ringing in the ears, numbness in the face, metallic taste in the mouth. So a lot of things can happen if that first bone in the neck is misaligned. And so it's powerful. Now, when you correct it, the brain can receive that reward cascade from the body. When it's not correct, some people have more susceptibility to things like addictions as well, because they're constantly trying to reward their brain through other ways. The brain's main source of reward is proprioceptive input, which is joint movement. So every time you move your joints, the brain is happy. The more you move, the happier your brain will be. That I'm talking strictly physiologic. I'm not talking psychological. This is just neurophysiology. The brain loves to have the body move because those nerves are constantly communicating with the brain. Imagine when your foot falls asleep. It's because the brain hasn't heard from your foot for a period of time. There's been something pressing on a nerve, and that foot hasn't been communicating. See, right now, David, you don't have to look at your foot or your knee to tell me if your knee is bent or straight. You know where it is because your brain's constantly communicating with it. Now, the minute something presses on a nerve and that communication stops, your brain is like this overprotective mother that wants to know where all the children are. And the brain says, where is my foot? It's numb. I haven't heard from it in more than a minute. And so I'm going to make that foot hypersensitive. That's why as your foot falls asleep, the next stage is it becomes tingly. Light touch feels like pins and needles because your brain says, I'm going to make it hypersensitive. So light touch is actually stimulating it. And then what do you do to get the foot to wake up? You move it. Movement of the joint reconnects neurologically that foot to the brain. Well, that applies to every body part. Anything that has pressure on the nerve where the communication is interfered with, the brain can't communicate with it. And so you need to move the joint at that level to restore that nerve communication.
Do you need more psych health and safety in your life? Then head over to the FlourishDX Academy for several free on-demand e-learning courses. If you're an internal professional, follow FlourishDX on Eventbrite to register for any of our free fortnightly interactive webinars. Our flagship professional practice program is also exclusively available for internal professionals. The 12-week course blends theory, applied practice, and interaction with other professionals through live lectures and a monthly community of practice session. Find out more about all these learning opportunities or inquire about a bespoke in-house training at the Flourish DX Academy. www.45003.org. Now back to this episode.
So tell me a little bit about this is again just a little bit of research I've done on this. Is Tell me about what's the purpose of pain in the body?
This is such an amazing question. I mean, you know, and everyone says pain is a bad thing, but let me ask you a question. If I roll my ankle and let's say I tear a few ligaments from a severe ankle sprain, and maybe even I fracture a bone or two in my foot, but I feel no pain, so I keep walking on it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What if I step on a rusty nail and this rusty infested nail goes into my heel, but I don't feel any pain and I keep walking? I saw a news article, this was years ago, where there was a child, and this is a very rare, very, very rare genetic issue where someone will not feel any pain. And this was a little girl. The mother said, I would give anything for my daughter to feel pain again, because she would drink hot soup and burn her tongue and esophagus and everything else. She never felt pain. She would accidentally break a bone, but she'd keep playing because she didn't know she had just broken a bone, because she just didn't have the ability to feel pain. Feeling pain is powerful. It's healthy for us. Believe it or not, and this is going to sound controversial, vomiting is healthy. Sneezing is healthy. Diarrhea is healthy. What is the body doing? It says there's something in there that I need to get out. Coughing is healthy. She says if someone's coughing, they're not healthy. I'm telling you the opposite. If you're coughing, you're actually healthy, because what happens if something goes into your lungs, you don't cough it up? Now you have pneumonia. Now it stays. It gets infected. Fluid builds up. You got pneumonia. That's one of the reasons the elderly are more susceptible to pneumonia, because they don't have that immune response that the younger people have. And so, what we think is bad is actually good. What we may think is a sign of poor health is actually a manifestation or a representation of proper health. Pain is that. Pain is that signal. It's like the oil light in your car that comes on, or the gas light. Gas light comes on, it says you need more gas. How many of you would take a piece of duct tape, cover it up, and drive it?
So the reason for me asking that question is I believe that we, from a psychological perspective, particularly at work, because most of my conversations, on this podcast are around what happens at work, but it happens other places, have almost value cultured or encouraged people to push past the pain and act like it's not there. So when something feels painful, we get that signal that something's not right, and it's not necessarily a physical thing. It's we were sitting in a meeting, and something was said that caused me to feel. I just feel there's something wrong with that, and in some cases, I, the wrong is I've been traumatized by that kind of language before, and now I hear it again, and it actually makes me feel bad. But I'm told, oh, just deal with that's just the way he talks. That's just the way they do it, and you're supposed to push past that. And I don't believe you should be pushing past that. I don't. That is your body telling you. That is your emotions telling you that there's something about that isn't comforting for you, that it isn't supportive for you. And at the very least, something should be said or done to try to correct that. So again, I think about this from a safety perspective, but I think that goes on a lot in our interactions with other people, that we feel something just feels wrong. And we just push past it and act like it's not there. And it actually gets worse and worse. And to your point, we can emotionally, people can get to the point to where it gets so bad, and then it breaks down the road, and it all explodes when it really you were feeling uncomfortable months or weeks or years ago, but you just never said anything about it. So tell me if I'm off base. I mean, but it just seemed like there's a connection there.
Oh yeah, and when we carry that, we stay in that fight or flight state long term, because every one of those things that make you unhappy or uncomfortable or angry or worried or stressed, all of that increases the fight or flight response. and you stay with that, and that's not a healthy thing to stay in. In the short term, it saves your life. In the long term, it's detrimental, because then your body never enters that state of rest and repair. I would say that from a physiologic, medical, clinical standpoint, when that happens in that meeting and you hear that thing, or you see that behavior that hits you, rubs you the wrong way, and you have that response, look at your breathing pattern. I have a feeling your breathing changes. Typically, when everything's okay, your breathing is a 1 to 2 ratio, meaning if it takes you 1 second to inhale, it takes you 2 seconds to exhale. It has to be a 1 to 2 ratio. That's healthy. But in a state where you're upset or angry or worried or you're nervous, that becomes a 1 to 1 ratio. Breathe in and out becomes a 1 to 1 ratio, which means now you've entered a fight or flight situations. I would say the first thing you do, because if you want to think correctly, the minute you enter fight or flight, the neocortex shuts down and all the blood goes to your primitive brain, which is thinking about just running away or fighting. Neither one may be productive in a situation where you're in a business meeting or a team building event of some sort. And so at that point, you have to change your breathing pattern, and you say, okay, let me just exhale slower. So I'm going to inhale and then exhale slow, inhale and exhale slow. And now you can think logically. Now you can think logically, and then you can address the situation much better, going, okay, what would be the best thing to do? Is this something I need to correct in the other person, or is this something I need to change in me? Because is it just because my response is inappropriate? Is it that I misinterpreted this? Is it that this person is always going to do this, and if I let him or her bother me every single time, it's only hurting me, not the other person. But you can't think logically when you're stressed. Just like the extreme of that is when you're in a near miss car accident. Someone cuts you off, and you just, your life flashes before your eyes. Your heart's pounding. You just had to slam on the brakes, and you're trying to calm down. You can't think logically at that time. Same thing happens when someone cuts you off. And let's say it's not a near miss, but you just get angry. The same thing happens. You're not going to be thinking logically. And I have a saying, and it's not a politically correct statement, but anytime someone upsets me, immediately my phrase is, "You're not going to make me fat and stupid," because what's going to happen is when I'm in that state, if I stay in that state, because the person that just cut me off in traffic doesn't know me. They don't know that they just upset me, and no matter what I do is not gonna tell them not to do it ever again, and so I have to change me. So that's why I say, because not only does the neocortex shut down and I can't think logically, so that's why I say, "You're not gonna make me stupid," but my fat metabolism changes, and my body will actually retain more body fat, especially abdominal fat, when my cortisol levels are high. So I go, "You just cut me off, but I'm not gonna let you make me fat and stupid." It actually makes me smile when I say that.
Yeah, that's worth remembering. Hopefully, folks picked up on that one. So, uh, wow. So getting back, yeah, that was very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah, I want to get back to you were talking about some of the kind of the physical connections between what's going on in your body and how you feel. And again, there are a lot of situations, the example is I'm working in a type of office setting, and I've not had an ergonomic assessment done of my desk, or I've got the chair this way and the screen over. They're just misaligned, but I get used to it such that I end up either slouching in my chair, I don't have a good chair. Over the course of time, I start to feel the tightness in my shoulders and a little misalignment in my neck and all that type of thing. And now the because I guess I may not be at 14 degrees, I may be at 30 degrees or something because I'm off. And that's been going on over the course of years. And now my behavior starts to be affected by that. If I'm putting all this together, there are some by simply creating safer spaces in terms of, again, particularly from an ergonomic perspective, you minimize the potential on the front end of the person getting the misalignment that causes the problem in their spine, that causes the their emotions to not be under control. So all this stuff is all connected, and there are some things we can do on the preventative side. So after saying all that, should a person be having regular, uh, be seeing folks like you on a regular basis, not because they have neck or back pain?
Yeah, a 100%. I mean, it's kind of like, should someone put their seatbelt on after they crash their car, or before they before they start driving? It's the same thing. A lot of people wait till a crisis happens and then they come to us. Unfortunately, that happens way too often, as opposed to the person who comes to us and says, "Hey, I'm all right, but I'm wondering if there's a better life. I'm wondering if I could feel different," and that's the person that seems to get the most benefit from it. Because, Muhammad Ali has a quote that says, "The fight is won or lost away from witnesses, out there on the road, in the gym, long before I dance under the lights." And so he's saying, the better you prepare for the fight, the better chance you have of winning. So we're all going to be faced with a challenge sometime in our life. That's a guarantee. You live long enough, something happens. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just telling you, there's a lot that could happen: an illness, an injury, an accident, something. How you come out of that challenge depends on how you've been living your life up to the moment of that. And so the better thing to do is to prepare, like Muhammad Ali would prepare for a fight, prepare for that next challenge. How do you do that? Well, posture is one of them, because uh, and when you look at it psychologically, you can either let your mood dictate your posture, you can let your posture dictate your mood, because it does go back and forth. You can't stand tall, shoulders back, strong, put a big confident smile on your face and not be happy. You just can't. It changes you. And so why wouldn't I? There are certain things I can control, and there's a whole host of things that I cannot control. Why don't I take charge of the things I can control? And when something upsets you, you're going to change your posture. You pay attention, just like I said, pay attention to your breathing, pay attention to your posture, and change that. And I'm not saying it's going to change the world. I'm just saying it's just going to change you, so that whatever happened doesn't harm you. Stress comes at you whether you like it or not. Stress is part of life. Now, here's the interesting part. In a research study, they took amoeba, single cell organism. They removed all stress from their lives. So they gave them the perfect environment to live, perfect food, Tempur-Pedic beds, and flat screen TVs. I mean, they gave them the life. They put them in the Ritz Carlton for all single cell organism, and they all died prematurely. They could not live. And so the conclusion was, life requires stress, and stress sustains life. So without stress, we die. Without stress, a tree wouldn't stand, it would fall over. It needs that stress to become stronger. Without stress of breaking out of that egg, that chick won't survive, or the butterfly's wings won't be strong enough to fly. And the same with us. Without gravity, our muscles will never get strong. We would have weak bones and weak muscles. So gravity is a force. And in fact, if I was to define the word stress in simple terms, I would use one word: force. Stress is a force that causes change in your life. The change can be positive or negative, but the force is neutral. Stress is like money. Money can fund terrorist activity, or it can put your kids through college. It doesn't mean it's good or bad, it's how you use it. Uh, Stress is like fire. Fire can burn your hand or cook your food. You wouldn't say it's good or bad. And gravity can cause you to fall, or keeps your house from floating out into outer space. So, so it's not good or bad. And stress is like exercise. When you go out and lift weights, you're stressing your joints and your muscles. If you do it properly, your muscles get bigger, you get stronger. If you do it improperly, you get injured. So you can't blame stress for anything. You can only respond to stress. Hans Selye is the gentleman, is a doctor who coined the word stress. And he said it's a non-specific response to any stimulus on the body. That's stress. And so how you respond is what's important. And he used to say, you don't need to name diseases. It's either sick or healthy. If you're having a negative response to stress, you're sick. If you have a positive response to stress, you're healthy. And that's what it is. And so we have to watch ourselves when there is something like that, and we need to pay attention to our thoughts. What do I believe about this? How is it manifesting in my body? And what's my response? I can respond this way, I can respond that way.
Right. Yeah, a lot that you just said it, and you said it a couple of times. You've talked about what we can do as individuals, monitoring our own breathing, kind of paying attention to how our body is responding, how we feel. What is it that you could or would suggest to organizations to help folks uh, protect their chiropractic health in general? Yeah, let's just talk about that. What would you suggest to an organization that says, "Look, I think that doctor who's talking about that chiropractic stuff, he's got something there, and we want to incorporate that into our overall health and wellness strategy." What would something like that look like?
Now, you have to remember this one thing: how healthy you are is determined by how much stress you can safely handle. So if an individual can handle, and this is me speaking to organizations, like you said. So let's say I'm talking to a corporation with 200 employees. They're all in the room, and I'm talking to the 200 people. And so you're a team of people. You want to stay healthy. How healthy you are is determined by how much stress you can safely handle. So if you're an individual who can handle this much stress, the minute your stress level goes above that, now you're susceptible to illness and injury. That's the person who catches a summer cold. That's the person who bends down to pick up a penny off the floor and they throw out their back. That's the person who reaches for the remote control on the back of the couch and hurts their shoulder. It's the simple things that normally shouldn't hurt you, but that's because your stress tolerance was lower than the stress level in your life. Now, stress, we told you, comes in three dimensions, right? It's psychological, it's chemical, it's physical. All three can affect you. Now, to improve your health, you need to improve the three dimensions simultaneously. And so you cannot just improve your psychological health and expect everything to get better. You can't just improve physical and chemical. So let's say I am going to start exercising and I'm going to eat well, but I'm not going to address the psychological dimension of my health. You will not get results. I promise you, even if you exercise every day exactly the way you're supposed to and eat perfectly exactly the way you're supposed to, but you don't address the psychology of it, you're not going to get better. Mind, body has to be together simultaneously. Now, but if you improve each one just a little bit, you improve drastically. So I'm talking to an organization, hundreds of employees, and the next question I ask is, how many of you want to make more money? And if they're honest, everybody puts their hands up. And I go, guess what? How much money you make is also determined by how much stress you can safely handle. You want to make more money? You need to accept more responsibility. How about if you go to your boss and say, hey, boss, I noticed you're doing all this stuff. I got my work done and I want to help you out. So let me take these two things off your plate. Let me do them for you. And if I do a good job, you'll trust me with more. Is your boss going to say no? Probably not. Like, you sure you can handle that? Yeah, yeah. I've been training. I've been training like Muhammad Ali, training for a fight. I intentionally I've been spending the last 6 months figuring out how to get my job done in half the time. And so now I have all this time. You're paying me for that time. Let me serve you better. Let me take more off your plate so you can be more effective. But if you're going to take on more responsibility, your body and your mind have to be able to handle the extra stress. Everything good in life comes with stress. You want to grow in your education? Higher education comes with stress. You want to get married? You want to have a beautifully healthy marriage? There's some stress that's going to come with that too. And if you want to grow your family, have more kids, if you want to start a business, all of those things, anything that's good in life comes with a degree of stress, but you've got to prepare to handle that stress. And when you increase your tolerance to stress, good things come to you: health and wealth and happiness.
Wow, 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 wow. That's just a fascinating approach, and it just seems to make a lot of sense. That I if folks follow this podcast, they'll hear me talk a lot about again, psychological safety and psychosocial hazards and how a lot of it is on the organization. But don't, hopefully, folks don't get this twisted. Uh, you cannot create an environment that's going to be healthier than the people in it. That you have to do both. It's not just one. Now, again, I still believe that there's a lot of responsibility on the organization because you decided to get into that business, you decided to hire people. I mean, and you've got the authority, control systems to be able to really make that a little bit easier than one individual can. But on the other hand, if I am if I have extremely low stress tolerance, if I am physically broken, if I'm not doing the things that it takes to keep me physically, psychologically, financially healthy myself, they'll never be able to fix it for me. No matter what you do, there won't be a match because I'm not doing my part. So they both have to occur. It's not a binary choice. They both need to occur. Yeah.
100% I agree. That's absolutely brilliant. So if I was talking now to the executives in that same organization and the employees are not there, just talking to executives, the organization, I'd tell them something a little bit different. Then I would say, listen, you're just like you just said it. You're the reason these people are here. You brought them here. So most people say, oh, I need to hold my employees accountable. I believe it's the other way around because you brought them here. They need to hold you accountable for providing the right work environment for them so they can succeed. You are the one that's accountable. You have to create the right mental and physical environment for them to thrive so that the best in them comes out because that will benefit the organization. Most people have the org chart wrong. The org chart is CEO on top, the other executives, the direct reports, upper management, middle management, customer service reps, factory work, whatever. And it's like this pyramid thing. What if we flip that upside down and you say, you're at the bottom. Now your job is to serve these people above you, and their job is to serve the people above them, and their job is to serve the people above them. And who's at the very top is the customers, right? And so everyone's being served. And so for you to help your employees thrive, you need to know what their definition of success is, not feed them your definition of success. What do you believe is success to you? What will make you happy? What are some of your personal and professional goals? And let's work together to help make those happen. You help them, they will help you. The organization grows based on how well you develop the people that are in it. Are you working to develop them, or is your goal to use them until they run out and then they leave and burn them out and beat them up and burn them out and have them leave? That's the opposite. That's the wrong way to do it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, who would have thought I'd have this conversation with a chiropractic guy? But absolutely no, I could not agree more. That and another point that you made, this has to be done together. It's not even the talk about the pyramid, it's that all has to be done together. I have to support you and you have to support me. We both have to do our part because I can't do it alone, but neither can you. We actually literally need each other for us to be successful. You might be able to be successful doing something on your own, but you'll only be able to do so much. That's why I'm here. I'm here to carry another portion of the collective goal that we have made. And that includes us making money. Because if you could make it all yourself, you wouldn't certainly need these other folks around you. And this, again, this gets all the way back. I can't say I knew the critical. It makes sense that if something in your body isn't working right, that'll affect how you think. But just that, even the tilt of the spine, how those small details can affect how this human being is their best self, does their best work, makes their best contribution, because things are just aligned the way they should be.
100%, because your nervous system isn't just responsible for sending information from your brain to your body parts. It also receives information from your environment. All your senses are constantly sending information to the brain, and the brain needs to process that information and then send information out. if there's interference in that process. You ever meet someone who's awkward, or they're just different, or their response, you're speaking to them, but their response is just different. That's a person that's not receiving stimulus the way they're supposed to. And that also could be a subluxation or a misalignment in the spine. And when you release that, all of a sudden, they're getting the input they're supposed to. So just like when you take a painkiller, it numbs your senses. Now you think it's only numbing the pain receptors, but believe it or not, it reduces all input to the brain. So a beautiful sunrise or a beautiful sunset isn't going to be as beautiful when you're taking a painkiller all day, every day. That hugging your baby, or kissing your spouse isn't as stimulating as it would be if you weren't on that painkiller. So it's affecting all the nerves of your body, and it's affecting information that enters you. Now, having said that, when there is that fight or flight response, you become more susceptible to illness. The first thing an organization needs to do for their employees, number one, is make sure they feel safe. That's where it is. Because if they feel safe, then they need to be safe to be themselves. They need to be safe to express themselves. They need to be safe to communicate with you and not be intimidated by you. And most importantly, they need to be safe knowing that you have their back. I tell my employees on day one, I'll say, the customer is not always right. My team is always right. Someone accuses you of something, I will defend you. I have your back. Why? Because I know they'll have my back that way. And I want to make sure everybody on the team, one of our core values is work joyfully, serve lovingly. There were those two core values: work joyfully, serve lovingly. But when we define it, serve lovingly is serve each other, then serve our customers.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, again, another area where I totally agree. I think that there are many organizations who've done just the opposite. They somehow believe that they can step over the team, the folks that you see every day, and somehow treat customers better. And I don't think you can. I just don't. I don't think, because you're practicing on each other all the time. And the way you treat each other, it's going to come out in the way you treat folks outside of that system. It will. It can't help but come out. And if you are kind and compassionate and supportive of the folks you see all the time, it's just natural to do that when other folks come in. It's just the way we do things. It's not something I have to, have to make up. I again have seen. As a matter of fact, I particularly when I receive services, um, particularly from folks that we sometimes describe as frontline. I like to know how they're being treated. I do. I do. There are restaurants that I won't go to because of how they treat the folks who work there. I can afford it, but I just won't do it because if they're not treated well, they can't treat me well. They can't. They can treat me okay, but they certainly can't give their best because they're not being treated that way. Wow. Wow. What a wonderful conversation. So, looking at the clock, one last closing question. So, if folks are sitting out there thinking that wow, he's throwing a lot at me, and but I really I want to learn a little bit more about how I can connect my overall health and wellness practice, health and wellness culture, with some of that chiropractic science that he was talking about. How would that best work? How would someone learn a little bit more about this whole chiropractic thing?
So shameless plug. I have a book. It's on Amazon and everywhere else. Cracking the Stress Secret: How to Turn Pressure into Power. A lot of it is what we talked about today, and so that's one source. We have a YouTube channel called Real Chiropractic. We regularly post. We do at least 3 videos a week on our YouTube channel. So and some of it is for entertainment, but most of it is for education. And also, we have a podcast called the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. My wife and I, we take all the latest news articles about health and wellness, whatever you find in mainstream media, and we summarize those articles. We discuss it, and we tell you what it means to you from a health and wellness perspective, and then we tell you how to use it so that you can feel better, get stronger, live longer, feel younger. So those would be good ones, good ways. Our website is midatlanticclinic.com, and my personal website is drrishidian.com. And all of those would be good sources. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and everything else. And I'd love to connect with you and discuss whatever questions you have. If you post questions to our YouTube channel, I'll make a video and answer your questions.
Absolutely. Well, Amir, thanks. This has been just, again, not, I don't know really what I expect, to be quite honest, because, and like I said, I do try to find topics every now and then that I know not a lot about. So, but I can walk away and feeling like, you know what, I learned something. So if I learned something, there are probably lots of others who learned
Well, thank you.
from your expertise. So thank you very
My
much.
pleasure.
I there's some things I'm thinking about that I probably need to do. So again, thank you very much. And if you're watching or listening to this podcast for the first time, welcome. I hope something that you've heard will bring you back in the future. Previous episodes of the podcast can be found at psychealthandsafetyusa.com. You can watch, like, subscribe, and share the podcast on the Flourish DX YouTube page. And please do join the Psych Health and Safety USA movement by connecting and becoming a subscriber on LinkedIn. So until next time, stay tuned and look out for the next episode of the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. Tune in each week for new episodes of the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. If you have a story or know of one that needs to be told, reach out to us on LinkedIn or send an email to david@id2-solutions.com or go to the Flourish DX website at flourishdx.com. We'll see you next time.